9 years with Jason Smith as our congressman, and here's what my district looks like. First, you should know where the 8th district in Missouri is. Here we are in southeast Missouri. First, we'll start with poverty rates. Systemic poverty at this level is a result of poor leadership, not personal choices. And this isn't because we're rural, because northern Missouri, the 6th district, is just as rural as us. Here's one image showing food insecurity. See how the 8th is significantly more oppressed than the rest of the state? And here's another one that shows food uncertainty. Pretty clear where the 8th district is, huh? And with such rates of poverty and food insecurity, it won't surprise you that 1 in 5 children in the 8th district goes to bed hungry. And Jason Smith, our congressman, calls himself a farmer. Something even more upsetting is that our district seems to have much less access to food banks than the rest of the state. And that's a failure of leadership, because someone with power and representation like our congressman should be able to help us expand access to food and food banks, especially since he calls himself a farmer. Let's talk about veterans for a moment. Here we are in the 8th district, where we have more veterans living with a disability than any other congressional district in the state. And we actually don't have as many veterans that live here as other congressional districts in the state. But my congressman and my opponent, Jason Smith, voted against the PACT Act. It won't surprise you that with so much poverty and food insecurity that the people in our district suffer from more frequent mental distress than all the other congressional districts in the state. I hope by now that you're seeing the pattern, that our representative has kept us more oppressed than any other representative in the state of Missouri, and he's been our congressman for 9 years. It's time for something different, because here is the prevalence of asthma in our state. Notice? Yeah, the 8th. Here's people living with disabilities in the state of Missouri. Yep. Again, in the 8th, we're suffering more than any other congressional district in the state. And I can tell you, after driving around this district for the last 4 months, all over it, that there is no opportunity here. There's a severe lack of health care here, and we are suffering under Representative Jason Smith's leadership. Here's teen birth rates. But here, our representative voted against the passage of the Right to Contraception Act. And yet, we have higher rates of poverty. Here's children in poverty. Yeah, so he's voting against things like our right to contraception when we have the highest rates of teen pregnancy, the most children in poverty, the most families in poverty, the highest rates of food insecurity, the most asthma, the most cancer, the most veterans that are suffering, the most people with disabilities. It's just awful. It's time for some new leadership here. If you're ready for a change, vote for me, Randi on November 8th.